Welcome back to the Secrets of Success. Now, we established the last time we talked that you don't go looking for your future comes looking for you. And we talked about the fact, and I want to use this illustration. So, we all, however long you've been living, you've watched the seasons come and go. Seasons do not ask for permission. Seasons do not wait for us. They continue to move. Seasons require that we respond to them, change the way we dress, change the outlooks that we have, because seasons don't wait for your approval. They come and they go, which historically means you can miss the season. Now, here's what's really amazing about that word in the Bible. In the Bible, season translates to opportunity. So a season or an opportunity is presented to you. When an opportunity is presented to you, the possibilities of the time period we call a season is being presented also. So an opportunity must be evaluated because these opportunities have seasons attached to them. Now, the simplest way we can understand that is thinking about relationships that we've been in. Relationship that we got in caused a season in our life, a time period in our lives that had us in an emotional place, a psychological place, sometimes a physical place, sometimes trapped, sometimes happy, sometimes unhappy, but the decision produced a season, or the opportunity produced a season or a chapter in our lives. So we understand now that opportunity and season in God's plan for you are the same thing. An opportunity comes, offers itself, and then goes on to the next individual. How do I know this? The Bible says in Matthew chapter 4, verse 17, that Jesus is coming from one place to another, passes a couple guys fishing. They're fishing, the Bible says, and casting their nets. So they're identified not only by the identity that their occupation or their decision to be fishermen has given them, because decisions do create identities. That's another conversation. So watch how this works. So they are laboring in their idea of themselves. They are laboring in the choice that they have made. Jesus comes along and simply says, "Follow me." So the future opportunity comes, presents itself unannounced, and watch this, and your future opportunity always has a voice. So here comes Jesus, "Follow me." The Bible lets us know that these two individuals dropped their nets. Now we know that this opportunity presented itself in the context of the lives of these two fishers. What does that mean? That means, and what's amazing about God is this: He will offer you an opportunity to step into an identity He has created for you in business, in life, family, you name it, whatever opportunity looks like to you. He comes along, the voice of the future, invites you to follow. Now, it makes sense to me that these could not have been the only two fishermen. But the Bible points out the two that respond. Now watch what happens. Later in the Bible, these guys have boats. And they're catching so many fish, the Bible says they have to call on their partners to bring all the fish in. So the dynamic was this: they're taking care of themselves primarily, got a little hustle. Jesus comes along and says, "Follow me." Opportunity comes, says, "Follow me." And the next time we see them, these guys have a fleet of boats, and they've got so much business, they have to have partners to help to maximize their use of the opportunity. What am I saying to you? I'm saying that when opportunity comes, it normally has a voice. It kind of challenges who we've decided we're going to be, because God desires that we become, all of us become, what He's created us to be. So what happens now? To enter opportunity, to access opportunity, we have to have a change in our minds. Now, for a lot of people, change is a hard thing. I can remember when I wasn't secure in my changes. And watch this. And change requires habit. And something I meant to tell you on the last time we talked. If you're going to be successful, you have got to get used to doing the same thing every day. Now, to unsuccessful people, that sounds like monotony, that sounds like boredom. But when I want to tell you something that's key to success is consistency. Everyone you and I admire has mastered doing the same thing every day. Whether it's basketball, athletics, science, whatever it is, research, they've mastered doing the same thing every day. Why? Because they love the results. You cannot desire success, love the idea of success, and not fall in love with the process that gets you there. One of the things I like to do when I meet a successful person, I like to hear their journey. Because many people will think once you're successful that it just happened one day. Now, logically, we know that didn't. But what happens is most people that want success but don't want the journey of success kind of think that you jump from A to Z suddenly one day. Like all these social media people that I know that are very successful with the millions of followers, they all started out with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 and did the same thing every day. To a successful person, the same thing every day is not monotony. To a successful person, the same thing every day is the process that I fall in love with because I absolutely love the results that it produces. I hope this makes sense to you. So we've got to have a change of mind. And what does that change of mind mean? It means for you and I, if you're looking to be successful, more successful than you've ever been, and one of the faults has been inconsistency in your approach, if you started and stopped a dozen different projects, always starting, very enthusiastic, start out working, but watch this, but usually kind of peter out because the result doesn't come in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. It means most likely we have not done what the Bible suggests, which is count the cost. Now, when the Bible says when you're going to build something, you need to count the cost, not just monetarily, but time, effort, use of gifts, use of talent. Whether you're going to have help or not, you have to count the cost. I remember when I started my building maintenance business, and we broke several, crossed several landmarks, broke some traditions in the city of Philadelphia. In the time that the business reached its height, I was working I had contracts with some major companies, transportation companies, the 2 biggest bakeries in Philadelphia, Tastykake and Nabisco. And at that point, I had been working the business for about 8-10 years. I had Philadelphia Electric and a bunch of homes in Philadelphia, about 400 of those. And people were looking at where we were after like 6, 7, 8 years. But I started with 3 contracts, subcontracted from another guy who I'll never forget, Art Thompson, who gave me the opportunity, who I subcontracted for so I could learn the business and then eventually step out on my own. Well, I started with 2 or 3 contracts, just 2 or 3, small, worked them into my schedule, and guess what? I worked them myself. I could not afford to hire someone. I did not know the business well enough. And quite honestly, I didn't want to trust that income to someone else's hands. So I worked during the day in my banking job, and I worked at night in my building maintenance business. And that meant I was working 5 nights a week, Monday through Friday, and extensive hours on the weekends. Well, by the time we got to year 6, I got all these major contracts. I got, SEPTA, and the electric utility company, all that working at the same time. People were like, man, I want to get in that business. But they didn't know about the nights, the days that I worked without sleep. They didn't know about the times that I worked alone, hours and hours and hours and hours. They didn't know about that. But I had to fall in love with that process. I never wavered. I knew what I wanted to build, knew how I wanted to be successful, and I learned how to appreciate the steps. I learned how to appreciate the steps. I didn't allow myself to get bored. As a matter of fact, I was too busy to get bored. So here we go. I finally got to the point where I could step away from my bank job. Well, that was frightening because the security of the salary always gave me an underpinning, but now I had to depend totally on myself. And the habits, here I am, that I had built subcontracting in the beginning of the business were the same habits that I held on to, adjusted them, of course, based on the environment and the situation that allowed me to get to the success that I had 5-6 years later. If you're not going to fall in love with your process, you'll never reach your goal. But if you love the goal, you must fall in love with the process. Secrets to success: love your process. Love the steps it takes to get to what you want. And be relentless about your consistency as you follow those steps. All right, I'll see you next time.